What's up, people? One Up Punch here. So I want to talk about Tower of Mask after I picked this up a couple days ago. It's actually on sale till August 20th for about $8, and when I picked it up for about $11 full asking price. And I still think it's absolutely worth checking out. There's 3 characters or classes you can play: the Soldier, Devotee, and the Bandit, and then you have 4 difficulties: easy, normal, hard, and challenger. And when we're going to go ahead and talk about this game, I'm going to talk about combat, the puzzles, the items, the weapons, and some of the things going on, because this is actually a full retail game. It's not early access, it's full release, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. The first thing about this game that some people thought was weird was the actual movement, and I don't see it like it's that big of a deal. You can't really move diagonally or like 360 degrees. You could turn, but you're basically moving on a grid-based map, going backwards, forwards, side to side, right and left, and that's pretty much all you're doing in terms of movement. As far as I'm aware, I think this game is made by a small indie dev team called Papertip Studio, and from what they were talking about in the synopsis of their game: dungeon exploration, explore the ruins, find weapons and armor, and discover ways to survive; strategic combat, grid-based movement is crucial for predicting enemy actions, which I'll talk about a little bit later; ancient weapons, which I'll also talk about because they say ancient weapons, but there's actually a gun in the game that you could use that is very strong. Elements and abilities: players can allocate ability points through level ups and equipment. Once again, not a big deal. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then they talk about difficult puzzles. The puzzles aren't really super difficult. Actually, they're more like kind of difficult, but then also kind of easy, and I'll explain that a little bit later on. As you see here with the inventory, you have right and left hand, you have the mask or armor, and then you have underneath that accessories. Underneath accessories, you actually have the bag, and that will increase the more you find inventory slots on pedestals or completing levels. And then you have the map. The map is not really that great or specific. And what I mean when it comes down to the actual map is that it doesn't show essentially like a doorway unless you go and highlight it with your mouse. If it actually shows like an orange kind of line, that could be a door. Sometimes it has like a blue X inside of it, and if you don't hover, then you don't know what it is. It might be a fountain. It might be another pedestal with an inventory slot on it. It could be a key. It could be different things, but essentially it's pretty bare bones now, and if you want to remind yourself where to go, highly recommend using that to mark like yellow or blue or a question mark or a memo, so that you can remind yourself later on that you have to go here to open up a door that you didn't unlock, or find like an item that you couldn't get to. And there are some areas that you can't get to unless you throw like a rock or a stone or an antler on top of a platform, and that will actually raise or lower a door, or maybe even be able to go through a small passageway. There's different ways to unlock new areas. Like, for example, when you go over the wall, they got these small buttons that you have to find by using the highlight when you go near something, instead of using like the torch, because if you use the torch, you can't find pretty much anything. If you go in the dark and find it, it'll be highlighted. You can press it, and a door will open, but you don't know where it is, so you have to go find it. The other thing is combat. The way that combat works is that it's very slow. You can back, you can go forward, you can go side to side, and you can block with a shield when you pick one up. But essentially, when it comes down to combat, is that you have to destroy them as fast as possible, and they'll have a health bar atop of their name. If you hit them in the head like their actual mask, it'll do critical damage for some. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them will take critical damage. Like the dragon, for example, that you have to deal with, he has 2 different attacks. He can hit you with his melee weapon, but he can also extend his neck and try to bite you or breathe fire on you. There's other ones that will breathe like poison, or poison gas. There'll be others that like just straight up attack you with aggressiveness. They'll actually come and swing at you with a flail or like a mace. Some others will have a torch. They'll have bees that actually can poison you or attack you a little bit and do some bit damage. There's different masks out there, and I've been through 5 levels of the tower so far, and I'm kind of stuck on a couple of things. But when it comes down to the combat, there are some people that have played this game and said it's too boring, it's too slow, it's laborious, it's repetitive. I did not get that in the 3 to 4 hours I played this game. I do like the combat. I think it's great, and it reminds me a lot of other games I played, like Devil Spire, Mortal Sin, Dread Delusion, and The Labyrinth of the Demon King. I mean, there's a couple of games right there that use really slow tactics or slow combat, and it still works out great for them. So it's pretty similar to this, except you're in a dungeon and you're fighting other humans that have masks on their head. And they have like their own different types of powers too. Not saying that you can get those same powers, like the catapult head, for example, can shoot or fling fireballs at you. or like the person with the bees from earlier can hit you with bees. You don't get that. The only thing you get is a stat boost from picking up the mask. And you can wear 3 different pieces of armor. If you wanted to, you could wear 3 different masks at the same time, and it'll actually increase the stats on your stats bar, as you've seen on the top portion of the screen from the inventory. And that's vitality, strength, endurance, dexterity, willpower, agility. Those will increase via the armor that you pick up, whether it be a leather cap, a metal bracer, the actual masks themselves, or like something else. And that's from being found across all the different dungeons and the different areas in the game. I'm not saying that it's super like linear. There's a lot of backtracking, a lot of going back and forth, having unlocked doors that you couldn't do it earlier, or being able to like find another boss that would be difficult to beat if you couldn't do it beforehand. What I mean by boss is that there's actually these really big head type of characters, like for example the deer head, where he'll actually come at you with like a mace. Then they have the ogre with like a flail. They actually are bigger and they're ghostly. They're not actual humans. They're ghosts that will come at you, and they are harder to kill. When they die, they actually drop a medium potion, and then they drop a book. And I think it gives you like 6 specific skill points for strength, willpower, endurance, whatever you have for the different types of stats. It doesn't give you a spell. It doesn't give you like a new skill. It just gives you more points for your add-on to your status. Hopefully that might be changed later, but I'm not really sure for now because that's what it is currently in the game. Like I said earlier, when it comes down to the switches, they are kind of hard to see. If you don't have like your torch on, they'll be highlighted if you're close enough to it. And then you can go and do a little bit of these puzzles. Like I said earlier, when it comes down to the puzzles, they're not like super complicated. There are kind of like some other ones that you have to mess with it or do trial by error. Like, for example, they have these statues that you have to move back and forth in order to make a pathway to go through it so that you can get to a secret that give you, like, a bracelet or a leather, like, belt that give you better status effects. Or this area to where you have to throw stones on platforms to open up a door so that the hand that fires like a beam goes into that and opens up a secret door that you normally couldn't get to. They actually have another area to where there's 9 different platforms that you have to all put something on, and opens up 9 different doors. And that's actually how you fight the first boss, which is the deer demon, or the deer boss, that floats around and tries to come after you, and he's very fast. The way I beat him was actually, I found a weapon called a handgun in this game. They talk about ancient weapons, but a handgun is pretty modern, or very technological at that time. And it looks like a deagle, and it gives you about 12 rounds for a magazine. You could actually find another magazine in a secret that gives you more, but I used that gun specifically for the bosses and nobody else. Then you have these catapult guys that shoot fireballs at you, and I wish you could do this too. I'm annoyed that when you get it, you only get a stat boost, but you don't get to do anything with the special mask. Maybe that might change later. I'm not really sure, since it's pretty early. Going back to the weapons a little bit, they do actually have like a tree branch that you can poke people with. You have a spear, a battle axe, a pickaxe, which is very slow but hits pretty hard. Then you have like a rusty dagger that can swing pretty fast and do minimum damage. You have a rusty machete. You have some other swords and daggers that you pick up as well. But when it comes down to the actual combat, there is another thing I forgot to point out when it comes down to it. Other than aiming, you actually hold down the right mouse button with just that weapon and no shield, and your crosshair will pop up and get smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's actually aiming the weapon, which will do more critical damage or more damage overall when you're fighting somebody. However, it sucks because sometimes if you're not good or fast enough with that accuracy of aiming, like getting your willpower all the way up, then it's going to take a long time just to wait for it to go down small so that you can smack them and do more damage. Like, for example, when I used the, I think, tree branch, it did like a normal 16 damage when I would hit them with it, and critical of 33. But if I aim and have the crosshair get smaller and then I hit them with it, I do 33 to 46 damage every time I critical, or even 20 damage, just base damage overall. And like I said earlier, when it comes down to the other different types of humans that wear masks, they have their own sets of powers and abilities that do different things. But if you aim for their head, that is mostly where the critical strikes are. I don't know any other characters that have weak spots anywhere else on the body besides the head, because it feels like that's what you're kind of aiming for. The dragon is annoying because he swarms around everywhere, and then he has like another version of that that's not really a dragon so much as like a monster or like a sandpit creature, And the reason why I say this is because he has the same mouth as a dragon, but he's got like the eyes of an insect, and he breathes fire on you. But once you beat the dragon and you equip the dragon head, it gives you +3 strength on your status bar. And like I said, you can wear 3 different types of masks on your character. The problem is, though, is that you can't put on leather belts and armors and bracers. That would have to be taken off in order to be put on for something else. You can put on accessories if it can go to it. Otherwise, it goes to armor. Then you have, like I said earlier, with the left and right hand, just the shield on the left-hand side with torches, and the right-hand side with weapons. But when you come over to this area here, this is actually the fountain for saving the game. And then when you do that, if you die or come back or anything else happens, like if you decide to get off, that will spawn you there. And then going down this long hallway after opening up all those 9 platforms is actually where you fight the deer boss, like I said earlier. And using the gun on him is very easy. I've been mainly saving all of my bullets for these specific bosses, and this is actually what he looks like. He does kind of have a gigantic head. He's ethereal. He doesn't have a human body underneath him, and he has a spear and a shield. And every time I shoot him, he takes critical damage. That is why the gun is very strong. Highly recommend having a shield too, because if he hits you, you will be taking a shitload of damage. At least a good maybe third, almost maybe half of your health points. And when he does die, he does drop a bottle and a book, and it gives you a bunch of other things too, like the antlers that you could use for the platforms, and that's the first boss gone. I wanted to show a little bit of the second boss, and this is actually the ogre. He has a morning star with a torch. And like the deer, he doesn't have anything underneath him, just the mask. And he'll kind of spin the mask around when he goes and attacks you. Like I said, these bosses give you a lot more damage when they strike. And you could dodge them by going around them or having them come to you. If you go over to them sometimes, they'll actually block your path. Or you can't move, like it won't let you go over. And that will happen a couple of times. There are other puzzles that you can throw a bone or stone at the wall and a button will open and then stop these teleportations from happening. What that does essentially is allows you to go over that pathway without hitting the teleporter and being sent back to the beginning. There are other puzzles to where you move some statues, some other ones to where you have to open up different gates, and then you have this jackass and the ghostly one that kind of has like a weird white kind of pale face with black hair. That one also can go through walls and hit you. This guy breathes fire on me, and he's killed me many times. I still haven't killed him yet. Was thinking about using the gun on him, but like I said, the gun is mainly used for the bosses or harder enemies I cannot destroy or defeat using the normal melee weapons that I currently have. Another thing I forgot to mention is actually the storage chest. And the storage chest is a place that you can put all your items if you don't have enough inventory slots in your actual bag. And instead of like putting it in there and thinking, oh my god, it's on fire, it's gone forever, it's just the effect. You actually put it in there and it's stored safely until you go back and pull it out again. The other thing I forgot to mention with the weapons that they have durability, and they'll actually show on the icon of the weapon that it'll become more and more brittle before it's completely gone. It doesn't tell you the actual durability as far as I'm aware, unless you go and highlight it, but it'll actually show on the icon of the background that it'll get more and more like crumbly, like dirt, if it's super dry, and then it'll dissolve after it's done being broken. Same thing with weapons and shields. It'll do the same thing before it completely breaks. And sometimes when you defeat some of these enemies, they will drop weapons on the ground besides their mask, or with the bosses, an extra thing like a potion and skill book. That being said, what do I think about the game? I think honestly it is worth checking out, and there's a demo still for people to check out if they don't want to go and buy it or spend money on it and think that's not worth it. However, when you play the demo and you get to the first staircase, that is where it ends, and then if you want to buy the game, it is on sale for $8, 30% off until August 20th. And I've been One Nut Punch, and this has been the Tower of Mask video. Thanks for watching as per usual, and like I said, this game might not be for everybody. It might be a niche title, but for me personally, I've been having a lot of fun with it, going slowly into dungeons, finding secret areas, doing puzzles, and getting that dopamine hit. It's a pretty fun game to play, and I highly recommend it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.